Seth Rollins had always been driven by the idea of power. He wanted to be the man who stood at the top, the one everyone else followed. Now, with money in the bank looming, Seth's determination burned brighter than ever. He'd assembled a faction around him, a group of men who could stand beside him and, in theory, help him reach the heights he craved. But something was off. The group had no name, no real identity beyond being an extension of Seth himself. It was clear to anyone paying attention, this faction wasn't built for the long haul. It was built to serve Seth Rollins, and Seth alone. Paul Heyman was there, his calculating mind always plotting, always looking for ways to turn the faction into something bigger. But even Paul, with all his experience, couldn't work miracles. This wasn't the bloodline, and it never would be. Seth didn't need Paul, not really. He'd made his career on his own terms, and he wasn't about to change that now. Meanwhile, Bronson and Bron, the so-called muscle of the group, watched and waited. They knew their roles. They also knew that, eventually, they'd be the ones to challenge Seth. Loyalty was a fragile thing when power was on the line. Seth's ambition had a way of overshadowing everyone around him. One night, after another narrow victory that saw Seth celebrating alone, Bronson and Bron exchanged a silent look. Enough was enough. The next time Seth raised his arms in triumph, Bronson's massive hand clamped down on his shoulder. Bron cracked his knuckles, a low growl in his throat. The arena went quiet as Seth turned, confusion flickering in his eyes. Bronson didn't give him a chance to speak. He drove a fist into Seth's midsection, doubling him over. Bron followed up with a thunderous clothesline that flattened Seth to the mat. The betrayal was sudden, but it had been brewing for weeks. Seth's arrogance had left them in the shadows, and now they were ready to step into the light. Paul Heyman watched from the corner, his expression unreadable. Maybe he'd seen this coming. Maybe he was already plotting the next move. But for Bronson and Bron, there was no more waiting. Seth Rollins was no longer their leader. He was their target. In the end, it was all about Seth, at least, that's how he'd always seen it. But Bronson and Bron had rewritten the story. The faction wasn't about following Seth anymore. It was about taking everything he'd built and making it their own. If you enjoyed this theory video, please like, comment, and subscribe.